Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be upon all of you. Now, when a kid talks back to you, the biggest thing, as I've said before, is you don't want to engage in it and you definitely don't want to react to it verbally to give them more to react to because you'll start this downward cycle. And a kid talks back to an older person or an older person in authority. Talking back is any time that older person tells them to do something that they need to do, and they say something back. They say something back other than pretty much anything other than a positive affirmation that they will do that, which is accompanied by them beginning the actions of actually doing that. Pretty much anything else is talking back, and you don't want to set an expectation with kids who you're in charge of, who you're nurturing, and who you have responsibility over, that it's okay for them to talk back to you. You don't want that expectation to be set. Same with interrupting you. And interrupting is more likely to happen when you're trying to deliver some lesson and they interrupt you. In both times, two things: you don't want to react to it with words that are a response to what they said, and you don't want to talk over them. You don't want to do that either, because they won't hear what you're saying when you talk over them. And there's a little more to say about that. And the skill of delivering a lesson to a kid as opposed to getting them to comply with an order is different skills. So I'll talk about that another time. But if we go back to our example of telling the kid to get off the iPad and to go clean another room. And we said, you go to them, you say, I need you to get off the iPad and go clean the living room because you left it a mess. And the kid talks back saying, it'll just take a few minutes. Just give me a few minutes and I'll do it. Now, this is triggering of the adult's stress. So, as I said before, you press your tongue to the roof of your mouth to prevent your teeth from being clenched. You take a breath and have a relaxed face. And it's a relaxed face. And the purpose of that is to signal calmness. Because the way you stay in control with kids is by having a calm disposition overall. There are some times where you're going to be tense, where you're going to be a little more firm with admonishment, but those are going to be rare. And when they're rare, kids will react to them as is appropriate. And when you're doing it when it's appropriate, kids will react to it. If that's the default mode of doing it, then kids become desensitized to it and they build up animosity towards it and defense walls get up, as I've discussed. So when a kid talks back, the first thing you want to try is just holding this resting face that I'm talking about and continuing to look at them without saying anything. Some additional body language things with it. You want to have your hands, it's best to have your hands below your waist because that signals relaxation. You also want to have your toes pointed directly at them and square towards them. Because if your toes are pointed in a different direction and your body is sort of like half turned to them, that signals to them perhaps some indecision on your part. But when you're completely square to them, your toes are pointed at them, you have your face relaxed and your hands down, this signals that you're relaxed, which means you're not emotionally impacted by their talkback or by their obstinance, which means you have control over the situation. But by being totally square to them, you're also signaling that you're fully committed to the situation. So it's not some cheap words coming out of their mouth. That's something they're going to have to do better than that to get rid of you. And really the message is they're not going to get rid of you. Now, a lot of people don't believe that if you just look at them with the resting face, the relaxed resting face, and you don't want it to turn it into like a mean glare. That's not the point. You want to keep it a relaxed resting face with calm breathing. A lot of people have a hard time thinking that this is going to get compliance out of the kids, but just try it. You'd really be surprised how many times if you wait 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 seconds, and there's some awkward silence there, how all of a sudden the kid, they might be a little frustrated, they might have some exasperation and go like, ugh, but they'll actually get up and do what you want them to do. Or they'll turn back and do what you want them to do. Because just really think about it. If you're standing there, square at them, looking at them, you have a relaxed face. The relaxed face is not giving them anything to react to. They continue playing on their iPad game. I mean, what are they going to do and say? They're not going to be enjoying the playing of the game or whatever their distracting thing that they're doing because they're so aware that you're looking at them. They're going to be wondering why you're looking at them. And that's going to start to make them think, well, how do I get rid of this? And again, they're not really going to know how because they're not that formulated when they have this type of obstinance. What they will get into is reacting to material that you give them, and you're not giving them that material. Now, they might say something like, why are you looking at me? Or, maybe they'll say, like, can you go away? And starting to get rude like this. Now, again, same thing with that. You want to relax and not react. If they are saying something, if it's gone on maybe 10, 11, 12 seconds long looking at them, and you are really feeling like you need to say something to get compliance, well, then you can say something. But the time up to now, you've spent relaxed thinking about what you're going to say. Now, what are you going to say? Well, again, you don't want to give them something to react to. And you want the focus to be on what you want them to do. So most likely, when you first gave them a command, if you're operating in the English language at least, most likely, you gave them some type of indirect command. What I mean by indirect command, it means a sentence that is phrased as something that it's not phrased directly as a command, but it's implicitly a command. So if you say to the child, I need you to put the iPad down and go clean the room, you're not directly telling them to do that. You're implying it by expressing a need. What you're directly telling them is about your need. And this is a common feature of the English language. Pretty sure it has something to do with the passive-aggressive nature of Anglo and Northern European culture. That like questions and requests and orders are usually given in an indirect way in English. Like if you go into a coffee shop, you say, can I have a cup of coffee instead of give me a cup of coffee. Not all languages operate that way. So if you need to say something, you're number one going to do it in a relaxed tone. And maybe even a quiet, probably even a quieter tone is best than what you said before. But it's probably going to be best to drop the indirectness of the original request. And you want to give a direct imperative statement. And a direct imperative statement is a statement that begins with the verb that you want the person to do. So you've had the first saying something and them talking back. I need you to put down the iPad and clean the room. Child says back, it'll just take a few minutes. You've looked at them. They're getting weird about, why are you staring at me? They're trying to resist. And it will take a lot of inner strength on them to resist. So they are starting to get a little obstinate now. If you've just stared, they are looking at them up to about 12, 15 seconds, and they've said one or two things back, you haven't responded, and they're still not doing it. They have built up some obstinance now, so there is some intentional resistance going on now. So when you need to repeat the command, again, you want to quietly, calmly state what you want them to do, but begin with the verb that you want them to do. Now, there's two ways you can do this. You can just repeat the original command, but without the indirect part. So if you said, I need you to put the iPad down and go clean the room, you can say, go clean the room. Or, you can just say, go clean the room, quietly. Now, you might do it a little slower, like, go clean the room. So that way there's a little bit of subtle emphasis on the first word. And cleaning the room is what you ultimately want them to do. So you might repeat that command. But another way to do it is to just really directly focus on the exact action you want them to take at that moment. So you might say, turn the iPad off, put it down, like start really directing them in a incremental way like this. And, they will get the idea and do it. And again, it depends on how the relationship is. It depends on where working with the child as far as getting them used to following what you say. There's all types of things that play into it. You might get like an annoyed response. Sometimes you'll get an annoyed response and it's not totally personal between you and them. It's just the mental frustration of being taken away from something that was fun and entertaining to moving on to something that involves responsibility. You don't want to get defensive. You don't get upset if they have like a frustrated reaction at first, because they might need to like let out their emotional feeling. So they might go like, "Oh," or something like this. Might even say, "Oh, you're so annoying," or something like this. Maybe slam the iPad down the bed or something like that. You don't want to react to that. You want to let that happen. Let them go start doing it. And even, once they've had that emotional exasperation, that will be followed within them by a little bit more of a calm feeling. And then when they have that little more calm feeling, you can say, I personally think it's okay to say thank you at that point. Some people will say no because you don't want to say thank you. You don't want to make it like they're doing something special. But you want it to turn positive in the feeling. And the reason you want it to turn positive is because a really key thing with this, when you direct kids to do things and they start complying with you, you really want them to be successful in whatever they are complying with. And this is a big area that adults make mistakes with. So if they're going to clean the room, you have to remember, for a younger person, even someone as old as 16, 17, 18, it's a lot harder to do simple tasks like that than older people. And this goes back to the fact that their minds can't integrate things as quickly as adult brains can. And adults, they struggle to have a sense of this and how this feels for younger kids. So, there might be things laid out all over the room that need to be put in different areas. Some of them need to be folded up or whatever. Like, it seems simple just picking up a room, but it actually involves a lot of integration of tasks. So it's a good idea to help them do it to an extent where they still need to work at it, but it is going to be easy for them to be successful with, especially when you're just at the beginning of trying to use this mode of getting compliance out of kids more than all. You want to set them up for success with it. Because if you tell them to go clean it and then they go clean it and you go leave the room somewhere, they're not going to stay on task. They're going to spend, it's a job that might take 5 to 8 minutes to do. You could come back in 20 minutes. They've either left it or they've not finished it, and now they're sitting doing something else. You have to make sure that they're being successful with it. So that might mean that you do a little bit of it with them, and you can give them some positive talk while you're doing it about how you appreciate what they're doing. This is good. You might give them some clear directions on how to do this. Now, teenagers, depending on how old they are, they might be a little sensitive to that, like feeling like you're babying them. But sometimes, again, it depends on the age and where they're at as far as the habits they have in doing whatever task you're asking them to. Some clear step-by-step directions on what to do is helpful to them, because it helps put the smaller tasks involved in the bigger task into focus for them. And then that helps build them up to success. You might make a deal with them. You do this half of the room, I'll do this half of the room. We'll be done in no time. You want it to be successful, And after it has been successful, you want to talk with them. Maybe you can do it right away. Maybe you can do it later when you're eating dinner together, and hopefully you're eating dinner every night with your family, or at least you have some time with your family and your children where you're face-to-face sitting down for an extended period. This is something very important that not all families do right now. I know there's challenges with it, but this is a really important thing. Because at some point, after you've gotten this compliance out of them, you want to go over with them the values that are associated with doing this. You want to explain why having a clean room is important. And whatever you're asking them to do, there's reasons for it. There's reasons pertaining to the personal way your family wants to live. There's usually scientific reasons that you can look up that you want to relate to them, and in regards to having a clean room versus a cluttered house. It helps people have concentration. It helps people have less stress in life, this type of thing. If you're Muslim, there's always religious values that you can relate this to. And in Islam, as far as keeping the house clean, you're supposed to have the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that the best home has clear, wide open spaces. So we like to keep our houses that way. You can relate all these things to them. And when you're relating those lessons to them, it's best to start with the smaller, more immediate reasons, and build them up to the bigger, broader ones. So there's immediate help for them in it. And you just want to be reinforcing those things. And then after you reinforce those things, you can say to them, so I ask you to do those things because having these habits, it's going to help you be successful in life. It's not that I want to take you away from fun or that I want to make you do something that you don't feel like doing in the moment. But I just want you to get used to doing these things that are going to be important for you. And this is how you start building the internal motivation within them. This is how you start, mitigating against those defense walls being built up. Is this type of decompression. And, this is a parent-child example, but this whole thing exists on a bigger scale when it's a teacher or someone supervising a group of young people as well.